What up, what up? It's Breezy coming back to you. This is low power mode.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Thing is time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Thing is time to switch it up to high gear.
Hey P-Treezy, welcome back. I have been in deep low power mode states for a while. I was sick with some stomach flu, or just my stomach is fucked up and I got sick. Either way, it was kind of rough going there for a bit, but now I am back in action and ready to get this going. So we are going to start off with music. Music. Okay, so today in music, we are going to talk about R&B queens. Now, I realize sometimes I realize the lack of hip hop that I listen to. Because my soul needs something very particular. And these days, I don't know. It's difficult to find in a very oversaturated place like streaming hip hop online generally. So and especially when I am in low power mode, like when I am feeling down, my energy levels don't match that of where some rappers are with their energy. It's more like R&B, blues, soul kind of vibe. And so there's an artist, Ari Lennox, who I really, really love, but haven't fully dove in, as in bought albums and stuff yet, because I don't know why. I don't know, I was obsessed with Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels last year, and another R&B queen, another R&B queen. She does other things as well. But yeah, I feel as though Ari Lennox it's just the time is right to focus on this queen right now. And she put out this song. She recently put out an album called ASL, like Age, Sex, Location, referencing back in the early days of chat rooms on the internet, where people would send ASL and you would give your age, sex, and location, and it would be really easy to lie and pretend that you were somebody else. I wasn't allowed to do that. AOL Instant Messenger was as far as I got with chatting online as a kid. But yeah, I loved the reference. And on her website, she has the how do you call it, the interface, the web interface from that 90s era, where everything is gray 2D icons. It was really creative. I loved it. I love how my generation, or people my age, are really kind of going back to their childhood and what was going on then, and in this whole internet chat room thing. I don't know. We're so nostalgic. But Ari, she had already released this song on another project. I think before she dropped oof, don't quote me, but I think before she dropped ASL, she dropped this like surprise EP called Away Message, and I think Queen Space was on that, but it's also on the new album. So oh, it's so good. It's so good. Like sometimes you just hear chords on a piano and you're just like immediately taken with them and relaxed and like put into a different space. And I would say musically, Ari, like not only her voice, but there's a lot of overlap in the type of music that she makes with our queen, Erykah Badu. Her voice, there's something about her voice that's very raw and raspy, like Erykah. And Ari herself describes her voice as vulnerable but soulful, imperfect but pretty. And I feel like, yeah, it's right on. Like I don't know. I used to, when I started out like singing and everything, I started, you want to be in tune, but you notice how like some vocalists, they're not pressed with like being in tune. They're just letting it go, like really letting it go. Now it takes a proper amount of like training to get there. But I think this element of rawness, like when I do hear on a recorded track a singer sing something a little off or a little out of tune, it's kind of like seeing a character on TV who's not like living up to this perfect stereotype that's been repeated a million times. I don't know, it's humanizing, and it's really refreshing to hear that in this era. You know, Erykah Badu definitely encapsulated that thing in the 90s. Like Lauryn Hill would be hitting every single note. Erykah Badu's like a little bit more rougher on the edges, but still like hitting the notes. So Ari, I don't know, Ari's really special. And this song also features Summer Walker, another recent R&B queen. I fell in love with Summer Walker when she released Clear EP, and I'm also really into these performances of music that involve. Okay, let me just describe to you what the Clear EP kind of is, and then it'll be easier to convey. But it's like there's 4 tracks, so it's probably like a 12-minute video that was released on YouTube, where like the camera goes up, focuses on this tree house in the forest, as I remember it. I haven't seen it recently, but I'll definitely put it in the show notes. And then you go in there, and there's just like soft lighting and like plants and pillows and everything everywhere, and like beautiful musicians playing music, and Summer Walker just like sitting amongst the lush music and pillow pile and just like singing. And yeah, I loved it because I think also like from the 90s or early 2000s, like we got a very heavily produced sound. So to kind of strip things back, it's kind of like NPR Tiny Desk, like kind of what they do, you know. I love that. So I really, really loved this EP. And then there was kind of like a lot of drama happening with Summer Walker, a lot of shit going on with the producer London on a track, which, you know, was her partner, now like baby daddy. And yeah, and I feel for these young femmes, you know, because R&B is about being vulnerable with love and heartbreak, and you know, all the sexy empowered shit is there too. But I think it's also this place to be vulnerable, and it's difficult to do that these days. And like everything is just so publicized, you know. You have Summer Walker and London on a Track on Twitter, on Instagram, on like you have all these different platforms to experience these people as they go through life. And so I felt like there was just a lot going on for Summer Walker, and now things have calmed down a little bit, it seems. So it's nice to kind of catch these, and Summer Walker is still in her 20s, I believe. Yeah. Ari is 31 now. So like growing out of those more tumultuous times and growing more into themselves. And Ari said about this album that it was about empowerment and self-love, and yeah, I loved that. I need that right now. So I'm checking my bank account and then buying the ASL album. But yeah, it's definitely such a vibe track. And the track is called Queen Space. So already I'm just in this like incense smelling, chakra lighting, like, I don't know, vibe. And it's so simple also. Like the lyrics are like, don't waste my queen space. You know, elevation when I let you taste. It's yeah, okay. Sexual innuendo is there, but it's something beyond that. It's something more. Let it rearrange the way you think. True elevation when I let you taste. I love it. It's kind of bluesy almost, because it's like blues music is, you say so much with very few words. But it's empowered. It's not coming from a place of blues. It's coming from power. The first verse, there's one thing we should speak on. This royalty you're seeking. Don't have a problem even. There's something I am sure of. I deserve something purer. My love is a privilege. My love is a privilege. Like, and that's, I really strongly feel that in R&B and hip hop, Black women have been, like in life in general, Black women, girls, femmes have been abused and used and played. And so delivering this idea about my love is a privilege is like, oh, like if anyone needs to hear that, it's Black girls and women, especially who listen to R&B and hip hop, because things can get like so, I don't know, just like I don't want to hate on like trap R&B, but I don't know. I need more femme empowerment in all corners of the music that I like. So this is definitely that. And yeah, definitely a vibe. Definitely. Okay, that's going to wrap up music, and we're going to move on to TV. Okay, I'm really, 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 really excited to talk about this TV show. And this episode, I'm doing a TV show and a stand-up show by the same person. And this person is Ramy Youssef. So if you haven't heard of Ramy Youssef is a comedian and TV writer who lives in New York. I think he was in LA for a little while, but lives in New York and is part of one of my favorite, sort of artist hubs in entertainment right now, the Gerard Carmichael crew. So in one of the articles I was reading, it talked about like Gerard Carmichael making topical discomfort his brand. And I was like, yes, that is so him. So this kind of approach to TV, which I would differentiate from Atlanta and like the Donald Glover crew, which I would describe as a bit more like punk, a bit more like shock factor, a bit more like fuck up the system, whereas Gerard Carmichael crew is like, let me present to you something, and like a good stand-up, let me present something to you in a way where you can see how absurd it is, and also like laugh because it's so crazy. So Gerard Carmichael produces the show Ramy, is one of the producers. And I cannot tell you like how much I appreciate the work that Ramy is doing, that he did in the show, that he is doing in the show, that he's doing in his stand-up, that he's doing from day to day. Like I just went on his Twitter after I watched the 3rd season of his show and his stand-up for the 2nd time. And he was performing stand-up all around Palestine, like in different parts of Palestine, because security and lockdown, and there's like so much military control in Palestine, and so in the land designated Palestine versus what many call Israel, which many Palestinians and Arab people refer to Israel as Palestine. I'm talking about like the Palestine that is designated today as Palestine. So I thought that was extremely impressive as like a way to give back, and also aware, because he could have just gone and performed in one location, but no, they did like Zoom performances and stuff, like so that as many people could enjoy as possible. These are the types of artists I love to support. And so Ramy does a self-titled show. Let's say it's along the lines of like an Insecure, where Issa Rae names herself Issa in the show, but it's not really Issa Rae. And so Ramy is the same, but it's autobiographical as well. Like it is about his life. And so his family, the setting is New Jersey, 20 minutes from the Lincoln Tunnel Bridge. Okay, so right across from New York City. And Ramy lives in a house with his 2 parents, Maisa and Farouk, and Dina, his younger sister. And oh my goodness, I love that. Not only do I love the show and how the writing, like every single aspect of the show, I also love how the show is shot, because when I think about the setting, I feel like I can walk through Ramy's house. Like, so throughout the course of the 3 seasons that I've seen, I feel like I know his street, I know his house, and I think it's really, I don't know if that was intentional, or if that was just like by way of the writing and what what came to life on screen, but you just feel right in there. You feel like a fly in the wall. And so Ramy he went to Rutgers University after going to high school in Jersey. And the show starts with him and his, like, with where they're at in life. It's like he and his best friend Steve, they work at this startup that's kind of failing. And so he's searching. He doesn't know who he is, what he wants to do. And also he's a spiritual person. I think you can't deny that he is a spiritual person. He just doesn't know how to honor that. This show is groundbreaking for many reasons, but one of the reasons is the States is so Islamophobic. There is little to no representation of people from like the MENA, like Middle Eastern, North Africa, Middle East, like global South, but specifically Arab countries. There is so little representation. Okay. Whether it's in politics, whether it's in in Hollywood, it's crazy. And it's, like we have all the same issues. Many different types of people have the same representation issues. But after September 11th, 2001, things changed drastically in the States to the point that I had little to no interaction or understanding of the Middle East or Muslim culture or Islam, let's say, until I went to Berlin in 2015, when I actually met people who came from these backgrounds. And I understood, I began to it's about like what you see and who you bump into and what language are you hearing and this sort of thing. So obviously there are many, many, many places, not just New York and LA, other places where there are vibrant hubs of communities from the Middle East, but we have we have like Ilhan Omar in politics. You have like Hassan Minhaj from the global South. It's very, very scarce out here. So Ramy is literally the first. And it's groundbreaking because we are so still so hateful and ignorant of this massive region. And at this point with globalization, everything is affecting everything. So much of especially in the States, what we consume comes from these places, and we don't understand, we don't know anything. So I feel like Ramy is just important. It's just simply important to have someone coming from, like, someone who speaks Arabic, someone who identifies as Muslim, someone who can understand this perspective, like, represented. And yeah, okay, I'll get off my like high horse and continue to tell you about the characters. And so, okay, let's talk about Ramy's family. His mother's name is Maisa, played by Hayam Abbas. Incredible actress. She kills it on this show. Maisa is Palestinian, and you learn that her mother tongue is French, but she speaks Arabic. And then you have Farouk, Ramy's father, who is Egyptian and speaks Arabic and had come. Well, he and Misa came together, I think. They came to, that it's like that American dream. He came to the States for a quote unquote better life, against the wishes of his father. Then you have Ramy's sister Dina, and Dina is played by May Kalamawi. Sorry, I just realized I forgot to write down Farouk, the actor who plays him's name. But yeah, I will. It's in the articles that I posted in the show notes. Dina, to have Ramy's mother and Ramy's generation of women, and their perspective and stuff represented is so good, because Dina is like so anti-patriarchy and struggles so much from both parents because of this. And it's like the family has so, like, I don't know, because my parents did not migrate from another country to the States. But I can imagine, as a person who straddles between two cultures who are very like well defined and opposed, there's just so many choices, so many scenarios, so many things that you have to kind of sort out in your head. And I think I really, this may be a little controversial, but who the fuck cares? This is my podcast. I understand when, for instance, like Arab cultures or people from the Middle East, Muslim religions, Islam, like I understand when they fear or hate the States. I understand how they could see the States as Sodom and Gomorrah, or as hell, like as the devil. I understand that. Like, I think it's just crazy. It's crazy growing up here. Like, sometimes I wish I grew up in a more like sexually not restricted, but like inhibited society, because sex defines so much of everything. I don't know. It's just a trip. And I kind of like, even though it is hypocritical, like I understand, like to say, oh, don't do this, don't do that. It's very understandable to not want to like lose your son or daughter or offspring, however they identify, to the States, to quote unquote America, which I believe the word America belongs to the Native Americans. It's just a trip. I don't know. We do not have like much wholesomeness over here, and it's crazy. And so, for instance, like one of the big character defining things about Ramy is that he masturbates a ton, and he says like in the show that he because you can't have sex until you're married, like you go to porn. But then if you're overcompensating, then it's a problem. And not only does he overcompensate with porn, but he just sex, like having sex, actual sex is an outlet for him almost. And so it's so natural for that to happen, I think. in the States. Whereas maybe growing up but not even, because you learn later on. So yeah, it's very interesting, very great to get like a different perspective on American culture and how fucking crazy it is. And how like godless, because even though Christianity and there's Catholicism and Judaism, and then there's like many major religions that play such a huge part in our culture, it's still such a godless culture. I think that's what I meant before about this perspective from the East. It's like, oh, like, yeah, the people from the States, they don't have God, they don't have this, they don't have that. And I identify as that. I totally identify as that. Like, I grew up going to church and, I remember trying to believe in God. Like, I tried. I really did. I tried because I was like, this is what everyone else is doing. But at a certain point, you just can't force it. And then once I grew up and like really grew into my feminism, I was like, this white man with the blue eyes, I can't. Do I believe in a higher power? Yeah, like I like to think about the universe. And I think that's very typical of my generation, because with where we've come with feminism and where we've come with equality, and also like, for instance, this awareness about like how queer we are as people, as humans, but how so many religions shun any sign of queerness. Excuse me. You see how destructive it is. And so for me, I'll never forget having a conversation with like pretty much like a family member who was like wanting me to buy into Christianity so bad. And I was like, I can't believe in something that doesn't like let gay people in, And she was like, well, I mean, you can be gay, you just can't have sex. And I was like, no, see, the math isn't lining up. No. So I really think that this idea about like religion and the rules and what it makes you not do and what it makes you do, in Catholicism, you go and you can go out and sin and then you confess your sins. In Christianity, it's like hard line. No, you can never be this. And Muslim culture, it's like queerness is it's like illegal in many Muslim countries to be gay, and yet, I mean, I know Berlin is a very like gay city in general, but like, oh my goodness, the amount of queer people from Islamic countries that I met and saw and like partied with, it was just like, damn. And if we want to really take it back, like Ramy was queer, and like all these, you can really go and dig up in spirituality, dig up queerness and see, okay, so these rules actually were instituted in like 1970. Like, you're like, I don't know, I'm thinking so much about Iran too, and the hijab and what's going on after the murder of Mahsa Amini. If you haven't heard about that, you should definitely look into it. Iran right now is like having a revolution, a feminist revolution, because this woman, Mahsa Amini, was told that her hijab was not tight enough or something like this by the morality police in Iran. And they took her into like custody or into one of their vans and beat her. And by the time she arrived at the hospital, she was in like a coma, or she was in like critical condition, and then she ended up dying. And so many women, and now the men, the workers, even the police are starting to, children are starting to march and remove their hijabs and say, this was a rule that was instituted fairly recently. We don't feel like we need to do this. And so it's incredible. And I want to also mention that I don't believe that like everybody should, I don't believe that women should not have to, like, I don't believe in banishing the hijab. I don't think that's the call. I think it's about having the choice, right? So in Iran right now, the country as a whole is really pushing against the powers that be to have the choice. So I really appreciate like being put in that context of thinking about Arab people, thinking about things that I've been told to hate. Okay, so back to Ramy and the characters. It's just like everyone is so groundbreaking. There's Uncle Nassim. He's played by Laith Nakli, and brilliant, just brilliant. Uncle Nassim is anti-Semitic and works in the Diamond District with Jewish people in Manhattan. So you have this like really tough dynamic that he's in, because he believes, all these fucked up things about Jewish people just because of the nature of him being Palestinian. And yet he's at the mercy of their kind of dominance in his profession. It makes her very, very funny TV, and very like, I don't know. I think it's important to not always be politically correct and like accurately portray the mindset. And yeah, from what I've seen, it can be like very like Uncle Nassim and how he thinks. And so I love his character. Then we have the best friends. So we have Steve, played by actual Steve Way. That's his real name. Steve has muscular dystrophy, and so he's in a wheelchair. But he Steve Way, like the actual the actor, and Ramy actually are best friends, and they like go way back. I saw this great article that interviews Steve about their friendship and like and stuff, and so I put it in the show notes. But Steve is hilarious and such a it's so important Steve being there too, because he's also a first, like you've never seen someone, disabled folks get such little screen time, and then there's like levels of being disabled, and Steve is just representing people who we have never seen on screen before. So Steve, his personality is just like, he's just kind of like pissed off all the time, like really abrasive and caustic. And I love it. We need that representation. Like, people with disabilities are not just passive, kind, gentle, it's like they're real people with brains and personalities. And so this kind of representation, I feel, is super important as well. And then we have his best friends, Mo, played by Mohammed Amer, and Ahmed, played by Dave Merheji. And they are hilarious. They're like more comfortable with they're also they are also Muslim, but they are much more, yeah, just comfortable with things. Like, they don't struggle in the same way that Ramy does. And oh my gosh, I think I'll wait to talk about some of the other things during the stand-up because Ramy addresses them. But the show is so good. It's so good. I can't recommend it enough. Ramy can be a self-centered idiot, and that's also just so funny to see play out, because he tries to be like kind and stuff and nice, but like really he can be an asshole, but he doesn't act like he is, whereas Steve acts like an asshole but really has like good intentions. And so the show is amazing. The conflict that they present are so they're so unique and new, and it's just refreshing. It's just like so refreshing. Okay. Season 2 has Mahershala Ali in it, who plays Ramy's Sufi sheikh. It's, yeah. I think I liked season 2 better than I liked season 3, but season 3 still stands up great. It's really interesting. And season 3, if you have Hulu, season 3, they have these like after show conversations where Ramy brings in all these different people who he worked with in the show, whether they're actors or experts or comedians, and they talk on different issues over a cup of tea. And so I loved that too. I thought that was really cool. Okay. Gonna end this segment here, and we're gonna move on to Ramy's stand-up. Movies. Film. Okay, so you know how much I love Ramy. He released his Ramy Youssef Feelings stand-up on HBO Max, I believe, in 2019. So in 1 year, he had his TV show debut and stand-up. And oh my goodness, it's like they go hand in hand, the TV show and the stand-up. He reveals a lot of sort of background things, and a lot of what he uses, a lot of jokes and humor that he puts in his stand-up he uses in the show. So it's fun if you're interested in that. But there's certain things that he talks about that are so wild. So, okay, so in the show, I was going to talk about this in the last segment, but I want to talk about it now. In the show, there's an episode where like 12-year-old Ramy is like with his white friends on the way to school, blah, blah, blah. And Ramy is just, he's so like, just so sweet. There's this one part where he's with his friends, and I think this is post 9/11. So they're kind of like coming at him for how he looks and where he's from. And he says, he's like, you guys, Egypt isn't in the Middle East. It's in Africa. If anything, I'm black. It's so cute. It's so funny. But no, the episode is really crazy and dark, and I just can't imagine being an Arab kid and having 9/11 happen, especially in New Jersey, like a stone's throw from New York. But so in the TV show, his mother gives him a walkie-talkie. He's like, why can't I have a cell phone like my friends? And his mother is like, no, but here is a 4-mile range walkie-talkie. Here, you can take this to school. So, not that weird. Pre 9/11, like a great way to avoid a phone bill. Post 9/11, not so cool. Like, like the visual, of the his mom speaking over the walkie-talkie in class with everybody hearing it. Oh, painful. But he talks about in his stand-up about how that actually happened, and it's just crazy. It is. You have to laugh because it's like so insane. Another thing is the one of the people who hijacked the planes that went into the Twin Towers was named Ramy Youssef, he says in his stand-up. So can you imagine like sharing a name with one of the, like, just too close. And in the show they do this really funny bit where Osama bin Laden comes and visits Ramy and essentially sort of breaks down this barrier about like strawberries and how strawberries are grown in Egypt all year round. So instead of bread and things that the people need, they grow strawberries just so that the US can have strawberries year round. It's wild. It like he thought he did it. He thought he caused 9/11. And so it's just a very funny and also tragic like exploration of that. There's a couple clips, one about Donald Trump. So his father was super hardworking and everything, and he ended up like working his way up in this hotel to be a manager. And the hotel was owned by Donald Trump. And so there was a picture of his father shaking hands with Donald Trump in his living room, like as a kid growing up. And he says that like as an Arab kid, anyone who's friends with your dad is like your uncle. So when Donald Trump got elected to be president, he was like, Uncle Donald? Just hilarious. So funny. What else? Oh, I love this bit. So going back to the hijab, there's this clip and, Ramy's talking about, a white person who said they traveled to the Middle East and it was like 100 degrees. And this woman was like sweating under her hijab, and they wouldn't let her take it off. They wouldn't let her take it off. And so this person was asking Ramy, why do you make her wear that? And he was like, first of all, you're in the Middle East. It's not 100 degrees. If it's 100 degrees, you're melting. They use Celsius. It's like 30. And second of all, like, who is they? Who like what? I'm not making her wear. But he goes on to say, he was like, I was going on a date and it was like the middle of winter. It's super freaking cold, below freezing, and his date like gets out of the car, and she's wearing like heels and like a short skirt or something, and he's like, and I was thinking, why did they make her wear that? flipping it around to mean like the opposite of how people mean that about the hijab. I thought that was genius, so brilliant. And he tops the joke by saying, yeah, and like the wind was blowing, her hair was all over the place. He was like, she should have worn a scarf. Oh, so good. Like, yeah, I love that we have a comedian who can make jokes about the hijab that are appropriate and funny and like socially conscious, social commentary. So, I'm a big fan, huge fan of Ramy. If you have HBO, definitely check it out. If you don't, check out the clips that I that I posted in the show notes about the two skits, Uncle Donald and why do they make her wear that? So funny. And yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for film. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
All right, so thank you for bearing with me. It's been honestly a rough return back to the States. It's like at first you have culture shock, jet lag, then I had surgery, then I had my birthday, which was amazing. Then I got really sick, puking, tough. I don't know. And yeah, the depression gets so bad. But I'm not like coming down on myself for it anymore. I'm just accepting it. Like, it's okay, And because of what I've experienced or what their parents have experienced in their lifetime, I believe the trauma gets passed down. So I'm not blaming myself for feeling depressed. And that's big. That's big for me. I'm so hard on myself, and I grew, I was a high achiever as a kid, and I think it's really tough to get to this place where the narrative is that you're, at some sort of height, maybe when you're in your mid 30s. Whereas I feel like it feels like a low, but that's corona. I mean, there's so many factors that I can't control. So it's about accepting where you're at. But yeah, it's been hard. I've been thinking, like, what else can I do for money? What else? How do I push forward when I feel too depressed to attempt the many facets of making my own music. Thing is, I love it so much, and so it doesn't matter how much time I spend away from it, I always end up coming back and being like, yes, this. But it's all that time that I spend in my head and in my mind that causes depression, and it's tough. I think a lot of people deal with it. I know I'm not the only one. But yeah, I'm really happy to be healed up. I'm hoping I can stay healthy for the next few months, through the winter, and because of that, like, through my continuous health journey, I'll be able to get more on the mic in a music capacity. I feel it. I feel the energy coming, but it's difficult. It's so difficult to, like, have all the ideas and have all the capabilities and just not the pain management skills or the feeling up for doing stuff. When I was really, really sick, like this past week, I was like, oh, but the podcast. And it becomes this thing that is like pressure. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. So I'm very kind of, I'm trying to retrain my brain in this new world that we're in, this new corona world. I'm also, like, praying for everyone. I'm praying for the women and femmes in people in Iran who are using Masa Amini's death as a spark to ignite a revolution. Praying for the Ukraine-Russia war to calm down. Praying for Ethiopia to become more stable. Like, just, praying for the states. Shit is so crazy here. And so expensive, but it feels like everywhere is expensive. Inflation is just like globalized. Yeah, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but sometimes I just feel like with everything getting more and more expensive and COVID like causing job loss and stuff like that, it's just like, oh my God, the walls feel like they close in. But choosing to stay up, choosing to be in the moment, appreciate what I have, and yeah, that's all I got for now. So thank you for your patience, thank you for tuning in, and wishing you a wonderful October. Until next time.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.